Hey guys, Ben Guilford here with Whitmix again. In this segment, we are going to talk a little bit about accuracy and where that plays a role, obviously, in the dental field, right? We need accurate models, accurate temporaries, accurate castables, any of those types of things that in dentistry, we need to be accurate in order to get a consistent result in the end. So first, I'm going to start off with Z resolution. I know you guys have all heard the terms, how do I print this? 50, 100, 75? Your micron slices, as I've shown on the slide here, accuracy isn't really a term that I like to use when it comes to that, because really overall, the object is still the same size. It is very accurate. But the type of slice or the size of the slice that you have will in turn give you a surface finish or a topography. As you can see again in the slide on the left, I have a 100 micron example versus a 50 micron example. So the cones on the slide that I have as an example, you can see on the edges that you can literally see the larger steps. So each step that you see on the left is 100 and on the right is half the size, the 50 microns. So you can literally kind of use your fingernail a little bit and feel that roughness, so to speak, on there. Most of dentistry is done within 100 microns. Unless you're using dyes, things that you're actually using to wax on, or you're finishing a margin, or you need to add a margin. So typically with crown and bridge, anything that I'm actually going to make any products on, I do print those in 50 microns. When it comes to splints or ortho models, antagonist models, anything that I'm not doing direct work on with the precision of a margin, for instance, I will print at 100 microns. There are other examples out there of different resins. We have a Vari tray for custom trays that you can actually print at 500 microns. Now you can imagine the cone on the left being 5 times the step, but that works really well for impression retention. And it's not anything that's being used for critical areas, so to speak. It's just a foundation for your impression material. With the XY resolution, we have a horizontal plane, X and Y, and that is described in the accuracy of the printer. If you hear people say, I have a 50 micron printer, what that means is every pixel on there is 50 microns. So you really can't print anything below 50 microns on that particular printer. Now there are some DLP printers out there that use a term called wobulation, and that's literally where you take 4 pixels and kind of overlap them to get a better, higher resolution to give you a smoother surface. As you can see in the view there, the left and right, you see in a 2-dimensional format of the XY steps. Anti-aliasing, what that does in the software and the slicing software that you're using, if you have very super sharp details, let's say I'm printing a circle like shown in the picture. If the edges are 20 microns, but my printer only prints 50 microns, there's a gap there where it won't print or it can't connect correctly. So I use anti-aliasing. And what that does is it basically takes your pixel size on the right side and kind of smears it together, giving you a smoother surface. Does that impact accuracy? Very little, not on the scale that we're working in. But it does have an effect when you're printing other objects that have really detail-oriented with a very small resolution printer. Then yes, you can see some detail or lack of detail, I guess, on the surface for that. How can we improve precision? We'll get into that a little bit more about improving as far as material settings and things like that. But what I use in the lab is I print different types of objects. I print cubes, I print different shapes and things like that to measure an XY compensation. All photopolymers shrink when they're cured. That's where Whitmix really plays a role. We have a very consistent resin that has a pretty low shrinkage rate. The higher the shrinkage rate you have, the larger variable you have of a consistent resin. So what I use some tools, as you can see on the screen. This is called 3D Reshaper. That is a purchase software and it's not cheap, but that's what I use to guarantee that our resins are as consistently accurate across multiple printers. Again, referencing the screen again, you can see it's kind of an overlay. I have a base STL that I use, and then I scan the model that I've printed and then compare the two. This particular software gives me percentages, it gives me Z ratios, it gives me all kinds of information that I like to use to validate resins. Now in the lab, you can do that by checking the resins that you're currently using to see if there's any minor changes that you need to make. I like to set this up in 3-shape. As you can see on the screen, I usually just use a coping, a simple coping, and then I'll add the little purple tooth up there in the top right. That's for a pre-preparation scan, right? So I'll go ahead and select that, and then what I'll do is go ahead and scan the model that I've just printed. In the scanning software, once it is scanned, I can also load the original STL file that I did print, right? So that's my pre-preparation. You'll see in the top right, it's that little purple tooth. So with those overlaid and aligned together, I can use the 3D cross-section tool within the Scan Suite software. And what I do is just kind of put my slice there, and then on the right, you can see where I've actually measured the difference between the two. Next, we're going to talk about hollow models, right? Everybody wants to print hollow models. It's the big thing to save resin. I have a couple things to say about hollow models. Yes, they're great. They have their applications. Unless you're actually taking the time to drain that resin that's within the model back into the resin vat, you're not really saving any resin at that point. If you do take the time to do that, kudos to you. You always want to factor in your time. But with that also comes a few more headaches, right? Just a few things that you need to know about hollow model printing. As you can see on the screen, on the left side, we have an improper design. On the right side, an incorrect design you can see how the hollow model is completely encapsulated. We always need drain holes, and we'll talk about that in the next couple slides. But what happens, as we talked about earlier, your photopolymer resins shrink, right, when they cure. So you can imagine, if you take a look at the slide on the right, you have all these walls, but then you have encapsulated this resin inside. So the uncured resin inside that model is actually larger than the space we've created, because the cured resin around has shrunk and the resin inside has not, because it's not cured. So what you'll see with that, as again, we'll see later in the slides, you have things that pop off the build platform. We don't know why it's not printing. It was printing great before, but it's not any longer. Have this flat slice in the bottom of the resin vat. What that does is it creates a hydraulic pressure, and it really weakens the adhesion between the model and the build platform. So as I mentioned before, what we're going to do here is we want to put side drain holes. The drain holes are relieving the pressure, or the hydraulic pressure within, and it's allowing the release. Therefore, it's not compromising your adhesion to the build platform. I like to see at least 2 millimeters of thickness on the walls. The reason I do that is, number one, so it does stay accurate, have enough thickness there. If I get below that, I'm concerned that post-processing may warp the model a little bit. So the thicker the model that I have there will give me the rigidity that I need to keep that shape as it is. And then further down the slide, we'll see I have 15 millimeter of space. That's just a starting point. I usually use 10 millimeters of the spacing of the holes. I just want those in different areas, again, just to make sure that does have the release of resin that it needs. Another reason for the 2 millimeter sidewall is a footprint. I don't like to use supports unless I have to. Of course, there's a necessity with different products or different types of resins that you have to have that. But I like to put them directly on the build platform. And what that does is it gives me that 2 millimeter to even 3 millimeter footprint that I can print these directly on the build platform and not have any worry that it's going to disengage from the platform. As far as die design goes, I typically print an unsectioned model. In 3Shape, there's a feature where you can ditch and trim the model. So I literally have a solid or unsectioned model that the software will trim around the margin for me. And then I will print a separate die as a check die. And those are the dies that I do print at 50 microns in order, just in case, again, like we said previously, in case I chip a margin or something like that, that I really need a reputable die that I can add back to and use and feel confident that the margin is accurate. On the left, you'll see I have a nice flat surface on the bottom of the die. You'll often see the one on the right when you do have a removable die situation. I'm sure you guys all know, with analog, we used to use our tools to pop the bottom, to raise the die out of the model. I like to use the one on the left to have that nice flat surface, again, I'm avoiding supports. Now, you know, there are lower anteriors and things like that we do need to kick to the side a little bit and support, and that works properly. That's great, that's what we need because the footprint isn't large enough to keep that adhesion on the build platform. I like to keep the base height about 5 millimeters. And what that's going to do with my, in 3 shape anyway, your base height will also determine the length of your die. So even if I have an unsectioned model with a separate die, the separate die still has that 5 millimeter. I like to use that because it really gets out of the inaccuracies of printing. We have a burn-in layer that, you know, may over-cure the bottom few layers, but once you get up into that 5 millimeter range, you can really count on your printer printing as accurately as possible. Thank you for joining me for this segment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to Chris Fry. He's going to cover some handling and safety for 3D print resins.